Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about Code Whisperer and Amazon Q. So I am from a developer background and have coded for. I'm still coding, so I love coding. So that's my background. Um, and one thing I've always noticed is it takes a lot of time, right? We end up, no matter what, how good you are coding, you end up going to search engines, search for some snippets because you got stuck at some point, and we always feel when you're doing so much of AI, why not some AI can help you with the coding as well, right? So this is what we are going to talk about today: Amazon Code Whisperer, Amazon Q, which will be intelligent AI tools that can help you with the software development. So I'm Sujata Dantluri, and I'm Senior Solutions Architect with AWS. And today what we are going to do is talk a little bit about what is this topic, right? Give an introduction to the topic. Talk more about Code Whisperer, what features it provides, and the use cases around it. We also will talk about Amazon Q, specifically in the context of a builder, right? Amazon Q for builder, which is more of how you can use Q for your code and software development. And we'll talk about tips and tricks, and then wrap up with additional resources which you can use to do more learning. So when I say I was a software developer, I started when we were doing development on text pads, right? We used to write entire code by hand. Then came IDEs. It was so nice that it can autofill for you. It can give you suggestions. So that's one step forward. We still use till date. I still do that. I still search for some snippets, which I cannot remember all the syntaxes. IDE is helping me, but also there are some complex things which may sometimes help us to search in the search engines. So this will be reduced. You don't have to code it by yourself, and we can create modern applications using AI, right? You can build complex, and applications architectures are very, very complex. It is getting complex as well, but as the time passes, with using AI, you can improve upon this. You can create complex architectures without spending much of your time coding. You can use the AI tools to do the development for you. And also, you can use it for maintaining those complex applications. Like if you want to do an upgrade or you want to add new features, you can still do that using the AI tools, with the help of AI tools. These are not going to completely remove or completely rewrite, but they are just assistants for us to deliver faster. So it just improves our productivity. Amazon Code Whisperer, which is a managed service which is provided by AWS. It is free for independent developers, but for organizations, there is a fee involved. But if you are an independent developer, you can use Amazon Code Whisperer today for free of cost. It doesn't provide all the features, but it is a quite useful tool to start the development with. And this is a fully managed service. It will integrate with your IDEs and will provide code suggestions in real time. It is trained on 10,000 billion records, both Amazon code as well as open source code. So hence it is much smarter in that to provide suggestions. So you can generate the suggestions in real time. Also, bigger thing, you don't want your code to be just generated and it is generated with a bunch of vulnerabilities. You can do a code scan and find out vulnerabilities from your code. So Code Whisperer has that functionality as well. While you are doing your coding, because it is trained on open source data, you do not want to be in a situation where you are in a violation of a copyright. You may want to reference, right? Like there are MIT licenses, those needs to be referenced. All of those can also be done using reference logs. This is another feature from Code Whisperer. So it's taking an end-to-end approach, not just developing code, but also making sure there are vulnerabilities and you're also able to track if there have to be any references that need to be done. So how does this work? So when you're writing your code, you can, this comes in multiple forms, you can enable that. But if you're using an IDE, you will try to get a vendor ID from your account, or you can create one. It gives you, it connects to that builder ID, and then it will generate the code based on the command that you will provide. I'll show you a small demo which does that work for you. It is currently supported. It supports Python, Java, JavaScript. You can see there are modern languages. All of the modern languages today, they are supported by Code Whisperer, and it is also there is a roadmap for COBOL programs as well. So, but most of the legacy programs are in one of these, right? So you can see, and if you are writing new languages, new modern applications, you may be using one of these. So it has a wide ecosystem of programming languages it is supporting, and it increases as well. And the IDEs which it supports Visual Studio, so, and it supports JetBrains. If you are an AWS developer, it supports, if you are doing coding on Lambda console, it supports Lambda. And if you are a data scientist using SageMaker Studio, you have capabilities. The Code Whisperer is also part of the Amazon SageMaker Studio. And also, if you are doing ETL jobs, you can use it as part of Blue Studio as well. So let's see how this gets generated. You can see here, I'm writing just a comment, and it automatically generates this code, right? You are not writing the entire code. All that it needs is a comment. There's a comment, and it generates the code. You need to hit enter, and it gets populated at the bottom. Then, of course, you have to do your due diligence. This is an assistant tool, but because it uses large language models, I'm not sure how many in the room are aware of the large language model. So just to give you what it is a AI model which is trained on billions of records, a huge amount of data, and it has a large number of tokens, because of which it's able to generate what it's able to think. It's a deep neural network which is able to think and is able to produce the sequences of the sentences, right? So that's why it is able to understand this code, this command, the natural language command, and then it is thinking and it is generating the new code based upon that. This is all coming from the knowledge it has been trained on, but it can also be supported to, based on your organization style, it can be customized to reference your GitHub and use that to generate in the style that you want, right? So it can match your developer style and patterns and can generate accordingly. Any questions before I move on to the next one? It's weird, I cannot see you all, so for me it is just I'm speaking, but any comments or questions, please stop me. This is another one where you are using command line to generate. You can see here it is using IDE style where it is giving you suggestions. You can click on that. It will generate the prompt for you, right? So if you have to do natural language to Bash, you are just using Q exclamation to do that. So you can see here it is generating the code in the as if it is an IDE. This makes a lot of difference because you don't have to type it manually. Third things are, before I move on to this, I was telling you it has mechanisms where you can log into Lambda, and in the Lambda console itself, you need to give permissions to Code Whisperer, just like you have given permissions to, you have installed Code Whisperer in your SageMaker, in your IDE. Similarly, you may have to give permissions for Lambda console or SageMaker to up to the Code Whisperer to allow Code Whisperer to generate code suggestions, but you can also log into the functions in the tools. You will see generate code snippets, and it should be able to generate code even in the Lambda console. The same goes with the SageMaker. And this is what I was talking about, because not just generating code, right? Because it is trained on some vast open source or Amazon code base. It doesn't mean that it is the right approach for your organization if you're working in an organization, right? So in that case, you may want to have the same style of your organization. Like if I'm having this kind of there should be what would I say? There needs to be an interfaces, there needs to be classes, all of those. Like this is my packaging style. This is APIs that I want to use. Then it would use that. So this is where you can customize Code Whisperer. You can point to your repo and use that for generating the code itself. And this gives you complete control of how to customize it as well. And previously I was talking about reference tracker. It is trained on billions of lines of code, which includes open source code. So when the Code Whisperer is generating the content, it is actually using this open source.
I will see if I can.
So you can see that it is because it's trained on billions of lines of code. It probably is generating open source code. It is taking the references from the open source code and it is providing the suggestion. But you may have to reference that in your code itself. You may have to ensure that there is a reference for that as per the licenses for that open source code. So in which case you may want to track it. So it provides you something called reference log. If you're using Visual Studio Code, on the right side of just where you see the problems and the output in that particular section, you should also be able to see Code Whisperer reference log like this, and you will be able to see this particular content here is having a it should reference the MIT from the repository, right? So you can then use that to accordingly take action on those references. And it doesn't do it, and it doesn't do until you finish the coding, because that way it is keeping a track in your reference log. It's not interrupting you, but it is giving a track so that you can complete the flow of your thought, whatever you have to do on your hand, and then you can use the references back to make the changes accordingly. This is the security scan I was talking about. So what it does is, after you finish all your coding in your Visual Studio Code, you can click on I will quickly do that. I will actually show you a quick one. Not? Okay. I was thinking I can move the screen since I'm removed. Why not, right? So, but in the screen, in your Visual Studio Code, if you're using that, on the left-hand side, you should see something called AWS. If you have configured your Code Whisperer, if you click on that, there will be something which says run security scan. So when you run the scan on it, it will try to find out the vulnerabilities, and then will give you where in the file that vulnerability is. And so if you see this is the resource leak it was talking about. There's a resource leak. This is the common weakness that was referenced. It is taking from the CWE resource, finding that security vulnerability, and it is also giving you what should be done, what should be the suggested code fix that needs to be done for this particular identified security vulnerability. This is currently it is supporting Java, Python, and JavaScript, but there is also support for TypeScript and CloudFormation in Terraform. And so you have done all of these, but in the modern applications, it is not that you're starting a project from scratch. If you're starting from a scratch, it's very easy, right? But if you are doing later on, you're adding code whisperer, which most of the cases. So let's address that. If we have to do that, we have to ensure we understand the current code base, which is what code whisperer was helping you with the customization. But you need to understand what the code is doing, right? What is the functionality that is there, and how do you incorporate new features into it. And also sometimes if you have to fix the bugs which are reported, the existing code base, you don't know anything about it. If there is a help from a previous developer of the same code base, it is easier. But if not, you may have to find out what it is doing. And this is where we will use Amazon Q in IDE, which tries to understand the code. So when you point to that particular code and Amazon Q is another capability, you can see here, at least I can show in the screen, there will be another icon if you enable it. This is only available for if you take a professional code whisperer. But once you enable that, it will give you, if you click on that, it will give you a chat window, which you can use it to understand, ask natural language questions to it and ask like, what does this code do? Or how do I fix this particular bug? Or how do I add new features? So it will then give you suggestions. First, if you want to understand the code, it will give you a synopsis of the code. Please ensure that when you read the synopsis, make sure it, 1 second, move out. Okay, I think it is going backwards. So when it is doing that, you may want to ensure that this particular code is exactly, you may want to verify cross-reference based on what is generated to what is there in the code whisperer in the IDE, and then you can go through each of that particular steps that it has listed out and then fix the bugs or generate new functional tests or even new functionality. So Amazon Q itself is big. What it allows you, it can be tailored for many different use cases, like a code whisperer itself. If you are a product manager, you may want to generate the grids that's given when then, or user stories, or understand the functionality of that code. It will give you that. If you're an architect, you want to develop, you want to understand the overall architecture or compose an architecture, which is another tool called Application Composer, which will help you do that. And if you are a designer, it will help you to decide and evaluate the project plans on the defined scope. And it will help you in those steps, design and plan steps, right? It will help as a developer, and this is what we are in this session talking about. As a developer, if I want to develop code, Amazon Q for Developer, which is integrated with IDEs along with your code whisperer, can help you with that. You can also review your code for compliance, that is the security scanning and coding standards. And you can also create unit tests and perform performance tests of that. Finally, we were talking earlier how to maintain is like if you want to add new features or add patches, analyze business operations to facilitate improvements, all of that can be done in the maintain phase. There's another feature which is called Amazon Q Transform. What it does is if you want to upgrade your existing versions of Java, you can use Amazon Q Transform. It's just a / transform in the queue, and it will transform. Currently, it is doing a transformation from older projects to Java 11. So that functionality will actually take entire project and do the transformation for you. It looks like some network glitch again. So this is what I was talking about, the new feature. This is called Amazon New Feature Development. What it does is it's still in preview, but it goes with a natural language prompt to create a feature implementation plan and delivering of that using Amazon Code Catalyst. And it will allow you to develop the new feature itself. So you are saying, I want to add a new feature. Like I want to implement and call an app file. And I want to add this. Add an import test app and call the test app. Right? This implements a new API endpoint to get the voting population size from DynamoDB. So you gave this prompt. Sorry, what it is doing here is you are trying to understand what it is doing currently. And here, based on that, would you like, it is also asking, would you like to generate a suggestion for this? Would you be able to review a different file difference before inserting a code in your project? So what it is doing is you can understand the feature here. You can ask the next question. So if I'm here, I can put my cursor here and then ask you to generate the code, which it will generate. And when you hit that enter, it would actually paste that code here. So that way you can generate the entire feature for this Amazon queue. I've heard some use cases where some people want to, even some organizations even want to generate the entire. Like I have a Java app and I'm converting it to Python Lambda. They want to even use it for that purposes as well. So let's see how this code transformation. I was talking to you earlier where you can develop the transform your existing app, which is probably in an older version of Java, and you want to, and every time Java upgrades or these code upgrades, version upgrades have been painful because you have lots of code which is written. The entire project migration, if you have to understand, if your developers have changed, it is very hard to do those upgrades. This Amazon Code Transfer, currently it is only doing Java, older Java versions to Java 11. It takes the entire project, does the transformation of that into the new Java version, and then also does because it is underneath, it understands the security vulnerabilities as well. It reduces those vulnerabilities, right? So in turn, what is happening is your migration to the latest version is faster, and it is able to save the cost for you. And this is coming for Linux as well, but this is only today available for Java, for Java 11. So let's see how this works. You can see here is 1.8. So I can change that into, I will do the transformation. Right now it says Java 11 to 17. So let's go with that. Now you started doing the transform. It's building your code and generating a transformation plan first. So it needs to understand the dependencies, code changes that needs to be done. So it is creating that plan where it says update the dependencies in code, build in Java 17 and fix any issues, and finalize the code and generate summary, right? So that's the plan. So it is applying that. You can see it is updating the dependencies and code finish. And now it's building in Java 17 and fixing any issues. And then the finalized code is there. You can click on that. You can see the differences as well. And the summary is published in summary.md. So you can see all that. So if you want to see the differences, you can see here the differences that have been changed. That is previous one and now the new one. So you can compare as well. And you can run a test now. It will now run the test. And it was successful. So you can see how easy it was, right? I mean, I would not say this is as easy as this 1-minute video. This may be a very small one to do it. So you will not, it was very fast. But in real use cases, you have a very, very big project with a lot of tasks, a lot of dependencies, and it takes time, but it does internally take all the code, does the creation of the plan, it will create, understand the dependencies, and it will fix the code. Of course, it will run the security scan, as you can see here. Running a security scan is one of the features of Code Whisperer, but it does all of that and then gives you the results. There may be cases where there may be still some issues, but that's where you can use, along with code, again, code chat to see where the issue is, find out the problems and fix it and then test it. Is it making any sense before I move?
Yes.
So, oh, it went back into the same thing. So let me go back. So this is in order to get these kind of results. As I was telling you, that was a very, very simple one. So and it is a recorded video. So I did not wait for so long. I completed it so that way I can show you in 1 minute. But if you want to get the best results with Code Whisperer and best results with Q, you may want to ensure these tricks, right? These are some tricks which will help you to keep that context window, right? You don't open all the tabs in your IDE, so that way it understands only the ones which it needs. I'm not talking about the transformation takes the entire project. But if you are generating for features or writing new code, you may want to keep that context window appropriate, right? The correct context window is very important. You want to keep the comments that you're giving, give multi-line comments. So that way it can generate more efficient way. The code itself is more efficient. There are times it may go into loops, and I have seen that because I use personally. There is a feature which will allow you to do pause auto suggestions, and you can go back and then retype it or remove it, and then start the auto suggestions again. Make sure your comments which you're providing, because this is a large language model, the prompt is what is making it very, it is giving the instructions for the model to generate the code. So make that prompt very specific and concise. Make sure that it is so easy for it to generate it. So that's one important step, very important one. And sometimes it is not able to generate. So in that cases, it's a very common technique. If anyone in this room who is attending this session, if you're a data scientist, you know that if you know about the chain of thoughts and multi-shots and few shots, right, it requires a couple of examples, like give it examples so that it can understand and create the code more efficiently. In case it is finding hard to create the code. Then, as I was telling you, keep the relevant thoughts open, and how context matters, right? So let's talk about that a little bit before I wrap, because it's the large language model is having so much of knowledge. It needs some help to understand what it wants to generate. So giving that context is so very important for it to generate that. So if I'm asking you to generate a DB code to retrieve from DB, having that right context, what is that it is doing, and the right prompt to generate that code is very efficient, right? So if I'm using, for example, I'm talking about using Spring or any other frameworks, I would rather want to use this particular Spring framework, use this version, this type of code, so that way it generates accordingly. And prompting is very, very important, right? So you may want to ensure the prompt is so accurate so it is able to generate the right kind of code for you. So that's a wrap. So you can see high quality AWS suggestions will be included as part of the suggestions that it is giving, because that is trained on AWS code as well. And Amazon and AWS produces lots of code. All its services, most of them are Java based. So Java is highly popular in AWS. So you will get good, efficient code in Java. But we also heavily use Python and other languages as well, the languages which are used by Vision, the supported by Code Whisperer. And then you can, the code generation, you have the ability to match your style. So use customization. That comes with a little bit of cost, but it helps you, I mean, in terms of, not in terms of the Code Whisperer itself, but it in terms of your how you want to train it, how you want to maintain it, right? So that part you may have to, but you can ensure you can connect your repo and have that Code Whisperer following your styles and patterns. And you can do the cross-file context, and you can do regex generation as well. It's part of your prompts. You can give that. Prompt is nothing but your comments that you're giving. So that is what is the prompt that will go into Code Whisperer. So it uses that. So you can, as part of your prompt itself, you can give those so that it can generate the right code snippets for you. Definitely a good feature, because when we are in a tight schedule, many of the times, I know I have done myself as well. Okay, unit test, let's do it later. But that's a very, very important step. So if you're going in the path of doing a acceptance-driven, test-driven development, then this becomes a very, very crucial one. So unit test, it generates the unit test as well. And then sample data generation as well. It does help you with that if you want to generate the sample data. And then you can generate the documentation. If you're using Q as well, as I was telling you, there was a use case that came to me where they actually wanted to understand the legacy code, because there's no one who knows about it. The developers who have written it, they've already left the organization, and the new developers are still learning about it. Not necessarily they know everything about it. So there's so much of code. If you want to document it, this is also possible. If you're writing new code, also it helps you with the documentation. You definitely want to scan your code for security, and that's what the code scanning we saw. And another part is, since it is if you are referring anything, it gives you the log of it so that you can take appropriate actions around it. So we learned all of this. So this is what I wanted to show in this session. Any questions? I think I see one comment for sure. Oh, okay.
Siddhartha, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can.
I had a quick question. So I don't know if you're out of time, then it's okay. But I think on one of the slides you talked about the ability to create project plans. So I'm curious, is that based on the user stories that you have in your DevOps tool, or what is it based on, and how does it figure out the time schedule, so to speak, right, when you develop the project?
Now, it would not give you the time schedule, because what it does is, and that's still to come, but it's a queue functionality where it can look at like the transformation plan that was giving. It gives you like the high level snippet, like you have to do this, you have to do that. It generates that kind of a plan, and then you will be able to incorporate it into your actual timelines, the dependencies, and I'm also a PMP, so you may have to have the critical path and all of that added into it. That's not going to be generated by the queue.
So it's basically generating a work breakdown structure for me, right?
Exactly. It gives you the structure, so it gives you the starting point for it.
Okay. And what's the source of it? Is that based on what is it basing it on?
It is basing out of the prompt and the sample it was trained on. So, example, right now the code transformation is only the one which is going to be released right now is the Java upgrade, right? So it is already trained on what needs to be done to resolve the dependencies, what are the steps that need to be taken. So that is what it is using to think and create the steps for you.
It's essentially doing that based on the prompt that the user has provided to generate code, right? Now, I'm thinking from a little bit of a larger perspective. If I'm leading or my team working on developing certain piece of functionality for startup, the prompt's not going to encapsulate everything that the product needs. The prompt is going to be very specific to what the code the developer needs. So it's the work breakdown structure for the prompt, not for the product feature development.
So that when you are doing a new feature development, it's still, it's the prompt and the sample and the knowledge based on which it is able to generate the entire features or transformations it is doing. So that is what it is using. Definitely a prompt, first input. Second is based on the knowledge it is generating that, right? So.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gabor, I was able to get to I was able to navigate the tech problems. Thank you. I was reading through the comments. I think that's pretty much what I have. This is additional resources if you want to get started. Personally, I use it in my development as well. I don't do that much of development these days because very focused on architecture and strategic planning. But whenever I do develop demos for my customers, I use Code Whisperer. If you are interested, this is where you can get started. And if you want to customize it, want to adopt your styles and patterns, this is another resource. And there's a deep dive workshop. It's a very nice one if you want to play with it. And this is my contact information, of course, if you want to reach out to me. But that's pretty much what I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.